my gosh, guys, I'm so lucky.
These are the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns of all time. This first speedrun begins with the runner spawning inside of water. And while technically I guess this isn't impossible, the chance of you spawning underwater is less than 10%, so it is slightly suspicious. However, the rest of this speedrunner spawn does appear to be pretty normal, as he's facing completely straight, he's in survival mode, and he doesn't have any weird items in his inventory. But as the runner locates a nearby village, he accidentally reveals he's been cheating. Because let's rewind the footage and take a closer look at this tree. If you look closely, you'll actually notice one singular leaf that looks slightly different than the rest. This is a birch leaf, a block that clearly doesn't spawn in an oak tree. And if you play the footage, you'll notice the runner follows these trees with a birch leaf all the way to the village. It's pretty obvious the runner placed these blocks off camera to remember which way the village was located, and that also could reveal why he had such a random spawn. So after locating the village, giving him the benefit of the doubt, things do appear to be pretty normal. He loots some chests, he kills the iron golem, and he collects both hay and beds. But that's when the runner comes face to face with Ronaldo, and to make things even funnier, this guy is going insane.
Ronaldo! Oh my god, Ronaldo, no, I love you, Ronaldo. Sui!
You have to be kidding me. Well, after fanboying over Ronaldo for 5 minutes straight, something absolutely insane happens. Because Ronaldo literally starts giving the speedrunner some of Minecraft's most overpowered items. An enchanted netherite sword, a full stack of golden apples, and even enough obsidian to create his own nether portal. But I think this guy's more worried about the fact that he found Ronaldo in his speedrun.
Ronaldo, I'm your biggest fan. Please don't leave.
I can't take this anymore. So, with this extremely overpowered loot, the runner starts to craft his nether portal. The only problem is, the runner doesn't have a single flint in their inventory to craft flint and steel, meaning they have no way of lighting the nether portal. Well, the runner makes his way back to the village, where he goes to the chest in this blacksmith. And while he finds some pretty standard items inside, he also finds 16 stun grenades? Is that even a real Minecraft item? Well, the runner grabs the stun grenades, where he makes his way back towards the nether portal, where it appears as though he accidentally throws one of the grenades, literally stunning himself. This guy is bad even while cheating. Well, just a few seconds later, when he gets his vision back, the nether portal is now somehow lit. And I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea how that just happened. So, after magically lighting a nether portal while literally being stunned, the runner can finally make their way into the nether. We're giving him credit, he actually locates the nether fortress pretty quickly. There's just a few problems with this part of the speedrun. To start, when he first enters the fortress, notice how he doesn't get a single achievement for entering it. And secondly, if you look at the corner of the screen at this frame, you can actually see a stone pickaxe that was left on the floor. These two pieces of evidence mean the runner has already visited this fortress before recording. But that's not all, because please tell me why the runner is literally listening to a motivational speech at this part of the speedrun.
You don't know me, son! 19! You don't know me, son! Yeah!
This might be the funniest speedrun I've ever seen. So, after getting some motivation, the runner enters the fortress, where he immediately locates a blaze spawner room. And giving him credit, these blazes seem completely normal, and he starts to collect blaze rods pretty quickly. But that's when out of nowhere, is that Herobrine? Things just got scary. Well, the runner immediately starts to back up slowly, scared out of his mind to face Herobrine. When Herobrine gets closer, and gives the runner a full stack of blaze rods, and literally types in chat, "I hope you have an amazing speedrun." This speedrun is so cursed, it somehow turns Herobrine nice. So, after collecting a full stack of blaze rods from nice Herobrine, the runner then needs to locate a bastion. And during his search, the runner finds this strange door with a sign above it called the Bastion Teleportation Room. And after he goes inside, he finds one of the craziest looking portals I've literally ever seen, which is called the Bastion Teleporter. Well, being curious, the runner decides to enter it, where he is then teleported directly into a bastion. I've missed too many updates. So, the runner enters the bastion, where he locates a couple of piglins to trade with. But this guy must be new to Minecraft, because he starts throwing iron ingots at the piglins, when everybody knows piglins can only trade with gold ingots. And this guy isn't too happy with the piglins.
Bro, are these piglins flipping bugged? Bro, why won't they trade with me?
Well, after some more frustration, the runner decides to pause his speedrun, go on YouTube, and search for a tutorial on how to trade with piglins. But hold on, while he's watching this tutorial, just take a look at this guy's tabs. He's listening to The Thick of It by KSI, he's been shopping on the Lunchly website, and he has a tab open with a tutorial on how to get a girlfriend. This might be one of the funniest speedruns I've literally ever seen. Well, after the runner finishes watching his tutorial, he starts to correctly trade with the piglins and collects some pretty standard loot. Some blackstone, a few pieces of string, and even some ender pearls. But the runner also collects one single item that's actually completely fake, which is this singular anvil. Not only is it impossible to get an anvil from a piglin trade, but remember this for later. So, after collecting some more pearls and enough obsidian to craft another portal, the runner makes his way back into the overworld. But as soon as he spawns in, is that Evil Dream, who literally pulls out a diamond sword and starts chasing after the speedrunner. What is happening? Well, the runner immediately starts running for his life when he does one of the smartest things I've ever seen in a speedrun. Because as he's being chased by Evil Dream, he climbs up this giant mountain before doing one of the craziest clutches I've ever seen in a speedrun. And knowing that Evil Dream is literally right behind him, he blocks off the water pool at the last second, killing Evil Dream to fall damage. And I gotta give him credit, that was absolutely insane. So, after almost dying to Evil Dream, the runner crafts his Eyes of Ender, and after wasting a ton of eyes, he eventually locates the position of the strongholds. But as the runner is digging down, take a very close look at his hunger bar. Did you catch that? At this part of the footage, you can clearly see the runner magically regains all of his hunger, even though we clearly saw the runner didn't eat a single piece of food. The only possible explanation is that the runner cut his video and gained hunger off camera, which will make a lot of sense in just a few seconds. So, the runner enters the stronghold, where he immediately locates the end portal room, where he finds the exact amount of eyes that he needs to complete the portal. And if you couldn't tell, the runner clearly placed more eyes in the portal off camera, which now reveals why they had to cut their footage just a few seconds ago. So, the runner enters the end portal room, places the rest of his eyes, and makes his way into the nether. And thankfully, his spawn appears to be pretty normal on the surface. As the runner is still in survival mode, he doesn't have any strange potion effects, and the dragon is still at full health. But, do you remember when earlier in the speedrun, the runner collected this anvil from a piglin trade? Well, the runner goes to the surface, places down a crafting table, and uses that very anvil as the last item in crafting the anvil catapult, which is a weapon that he uses to literally shoot anvils at the end crystals. And after breaking all of them, he uses the anvil catapult to make quick work of the ender dragon. This next speedrun begins, and there's already something fake about it. However, it actually has nothing to do with his spawn location, as we can clearly see he's facing straight, his first slot is selected, and the runner is in survival mode. But let's take a very close look at this speedrunner's world generation. Did you catch that? In a real Minecraft speedrun, this box must be filled in edge to edge before you spawn in. However, in this speedrun, you can actually see that the runner spawns in before the gray box is filled. This actually means there was a cut in the recording, and the speedrunner is likely using a set seed. Either way, the rest of the run starts off fairly normally, with the runner mining some wood, crafting a few tools, and heading towards a nearby shipwreck. But as the runner is swimming towards it, wait a second, did you see that? There's a single stick that is seemingly floating in the water. And because we can clearly see the runner doesn't have any in his inventory, how this stick is magically floating is something to keep in mind. Well, besides this strange stick, the runner makes his way into the shipwreck, where all 3 chests that he loots are actually completely normal. But while the runner has this chest open, let's take a closer look at his inventory, where the runner has suddenly acquired a potion of fire resistance. Well, because this fire resistance was clearly not in any of the chests, how is it possible that the runner has it in their inventory? Well, let's actually play this part of the footage in slow motion and tell me if you catch it. Did you see it? You can actually see a potion of fire resistance being thrown from the side of the screen, right into the runner's inventory, which was clearly thrown by some other player that is trying to stay hidden. So not only is this fake, but my guess is this hidden player is the one to blame for this floating stick. So the runner collects his loot from the shipwreck chests before making his way towards a nearby village. And all is normal until a runner finds the Rainbow Lucky Block house? Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Well, the runner makes his way inside, and I think everybody knows what's about to be in this chest. A single piece of bread from a Rainbow Lucky Block house? What's going on? Well, the runner is clearly angry, so he starts to leave the Lucky Block house. But as he turns to the side, did you see that? The same chest that the runner just found a piece of bread in just a few seconds ago somehow mysteriously opens. And after hearing that, the runner goes back to check it, and the same chest now has some pretty overpowered items, including obsidian, flint and steel, and gold ingots. All items to help the runner in the nether. But how did this chest open on its own? Well, when the runner leaves the Rainbow Lucky Block house, pause the footage at this frame, where you can actually see another player right outside the window of the house. This player is clearly the one who's been assisting the speedrunner throughout the run, but he should have hidden more carefully. So, using his loot from the Lucky Block house, the runner starts to build his nether portal, preparing to head into the nether. But when the runner goes to light it, oh my gosh, this might be the world's most beautiful nether portal. Well, the runner enters this majestic nether portal, but when he spawns into the nether, I'm not gonna lie, things look completely normal. So I guess this portal ran out of all its powers. So, the runner enters the nether, where after collecting some extra wood and fighting a couple mobs, he begins his search for a nether fortress. And the runner has the bright idea of pulling out a compass and trying to follow it to find a fortress. But I don't think this runner realizes that without setting any coordinates, this compass does absolutely nothing. But the runner still quote-unquote follows it till he actually finds a fortress? But wait a second, that's literally impossible. You can clearly see this compass was pointing in random directions. Well, let's rewind the footage and take a very close look at this block of soul sand. To start, it's actually impossible for soul sand to spawn above Y34 in this biome, which means it's actually fake. But secondly, if you play the footage, the block starts moving, and if you pay close attention, you can actually see the runner follow this soul sand's block all the way to the fortress. This moving block is clearly the runner's friend with a morph mod, and he's the one who led him to the fortress, not this compass. So, the runner enters the fortress, but before he starts looking for a blaze spawner, he goes to loot this fortress chest. But hold on a second, did you see what I saw? As the runner is traveling through this hallway, you can actually see this random item frame on the wall. And while I don't see how this could possibly help the speedrunner, it's pretty obvious it can't naturally spawn there, so let's keep it in mind. Well, the runner goes to loot the chest, where he finds some pretty standard items, including flint and steel, a few iron ingots, and even a gold sword. But the runner grabs this singular gold sword, where he runs back towards this strange item frame we just saw. But after placing it in the item frame, a secret door opens up with a passageway that goes all the way to the blaze spawner. And I'll be honest, I have no idea how the runner did that. So, after locating the blaze spawner through a secret passageway, the runner drinks a potion of fire resistance and starts to fight some of the blazes. But these must be some of the world's strongest blazes, because the runner somehow breaks his gold sword before he's able to kill a single blaze. Which is incredibly odd, because after testing in my own Minecraft worlds, I easily destroyed the blaze with the exact same golden sword. But I guess these blazers are strong for a reason, because instead of dropping just one blaze rod, each blaze drops 3 blaze rods, which is not only triple the amount that can drop naturally, but I have no idea how the runner pulled that off. So, with each blaze dropping 3 rods, the runner only needs to kill a few more before he has enough to leave the fortress. And with that, he makes his way towards a nearby bastion, where if I have to give him credit, he locates it without a single bit of suspicious activity. But this speedrunner must have just downloaded Minecraft, because instead of trying to trade his gold with piglins, he starts throwing his gold at a hoglin? You can't make this up. Well, clearly the hoglin isn't going to trade with this gold. Oh my gosh, he picked up the gold. And not only that, but he gives the runner some pretty good trades, giving him ender pearls, obsidian, and even more fire resistance. How is this possible? Well, hold on a second and let's rewind the footage. Because as the runner is casually mining some gold blocks, take a close look into the top left corner of the screen, where we can clearly see the same friend who's helped the runner throughout the speedrun morph into a hoglin? Is that even a vanilla feature? And after knowing someone else morphed into a hoglin, if you carefully analyze the movement of this hoglin, you can clearly see it's moving unnaturally and not like a real hoglin. Put these two together, and it's pretty obvious this hoglin the runner is trading with is actually the speedrunner's friend, once again using a morph mod. And that explains how he was able to trade with it. So, after getting all the loot that he needs from this quote-unquote hoglin, the runner begins to craft a nether portal. But the runner does something incredibly strange by putting 4 pieces of blackstone around each corner of the portal. And the runner then explains in chat that by adding the blackstone, he has now created a strongholds portal. Well, I'm not sure if I believe it, but either way, the runner lights it and prepares to head into the overworld. Oh my gosh, he actually spawns in directly into the strongholds. I guess he wasn't lying about this strongholds portal. So, the runner enters the strongholds, where after fighting a few mobs and looting a chest, he starts to search for the end portal room. But when the runner turns this corner, he finds the stronghold tour guide, who immediately types in chat asking the runner if he can provide any assistance in the strongholds, which the runner replies, asking for directions to the end portal room. And after agreeing in the chat, this stronghold tour guide leads the runner straight to the end portal. I think I've seen it all. So, the runner enters the end portal room, where he crafts his eyes of ender, completes the portal, and spawns into the end. But unfortunately, things just get even more cursed from this point forward. Because while the runner's spawn into the end was completely normal, and his inventory doesn't have any overpowered items, notice how at the top of the screen, there isn't a health bar for the ender dragon. In a real Minecraft speedrun, if there is no health bar, it actually means the ender dragon has already been killed. But when the runner goes to the surface, he actually does spot the ender dragon. So what is going on? Well, this dragon must be glitched, because if you pay attention to his movement, you can literally see that he's stuck in place perching. And when he tries to damage it, the dragon is literally invincible. And after literally trying for 5 minutes straight, the runner can't do a single tick of damage to the ender dragon. Well, the runner must have been angry, because after not being able to kill the dragon, they run towards the edge and jump off the map. I'm so confused. This next speedrun begins, and honestly, everything looks fairly normal. The runner's selecting the very first slot in his hotbar, he doesn't have any strange items in his inventory, and we can clearly see he's in survival mode. However, do you notice what is fake about this runner spawn? Well, if you look closely, you can actually clearly see that the runner is not facing straight, but actually facing slightly to the left. In a real Minecraft speedrun, when you spawn in, you will always be facing perfectly parallel to the surrounding blocks. So because this speedrunner is clearly angled to the left, it's quite likely that the runner faked his world generation and is using a set seed. But either way, I guess the rest of the spawn does look to be fairly normal, as the runner collects some wood, makes himself a couple of tools, and starts searching for a nearby shipwreck. But not only does this speedrunner find one shipwreck, but 2, 3 shipwrecks in one single area. Now, technically speaking, there isn't a rule in Minecraft that stops shipwrecks from spawning this close to each other. However, after I literally asked ChatGPT, the odds of 3 shipwrecks spawning like this is literally over 1 in several billion, which basically confirms this is completely fake, and the runner spawned in these extra shipwrecks off camera to help with the speedrun. So, with 3 shipwrecks for the runner to loot from, he ends up finding 9 different shipwreck chests. And with this many chests, it's hard to notice if there's anything fake about the loot inside of them. However, let's move our focus to the 7th shipwreck chest the runner loots, because inside, while the runner does find a few normal items like paper and carrots, he finds 2 extremely strange items. This block of glowstone and this singular chain. And not only are these 2 items completely fake and can't naturally spawn here, but remember them for later in the speedrun. So, after looting all 3 shipwrecks, the runner quickly makes his way to shore where he starts searching for a nearby village. And giving him credit, he actually locates it without any suspicious activity. But that's the last real thing that happens in the village. Because as soon as the runner enters inside it, he finds what? Why in the world is there a life-size Notch statue in this village? And why does he look so cursed? Well, the runner makes his way up the life-size Notch statue where he finds this very strange ladder. And of course, the runner decides to climb all the way to the top where he finds a trap door on the top of Notch's skull, and when he enters into it, he finds one of the most overpowered loot rooms in all of Minecraft. Chests with literally everything he needs to enter the nether, enough food to last the rest of his life, and even an armor stand with a full set of diamond armor. Can someone tell me which update they added the Notch room into Minecraft? Well, after the runner collects all the loot that he needs, he leaves Notch's overpowered loot room where he starts to craft his nether portal. And after lighting it with flint and steel he got from one of the chests, the runner finally makes his way into the nether. But right off the bat, there's something incredibly fake about this spawn that you probably missed. Because just a few seconds after the runner spawns into the nether, let's take a very close look at this portal. In a real Minecraft speedrun, portals generated on their own will always be the full rectangle shape. However, in this speedrun, we can actually see this nether portal doesn't have any of the corners. And this actually confirms that this nether portal was not generated naturally, but was instead built manually by the speedrunner off camera. And not only does this prove that the runner made a cut in his recording, but it's no surprise that he now spawns in right next to a fortress. So, the runner enters the nearby fortress, where after looting one of the chests inside, he begins his search for the blaze spawner room. Unfortunately, the runner simply can't seem to find one, because he instead finds 3, which have literally spawned right next to each other. And not only is it very obvious the runner built this himself off camera, but fortresses can't even spawn with more than 2 spawners in each one. So, after finding this ultra blaze spawner, the runner immediately starts to kill the blazes, where he quickly collects some blaze rods. And if I have to give him credit, everything about these blazes are actually 100% normal, as they all drop the standard 1 blaze rod per blaze. However, it's actually something the speedrunner does, which is completely fake. Because if you look into the top right corner of the screen, you can actually see the runner has magically acquired a fire resistance potion. Even though literally throughout the entire speedrun, we haven't seen him collect a single one. Well, let's replay this part of the footage, and let me know if you saw what happened. Did you catch it? Well, if you pause the footage at this frame, you can actually see both a line of string along with 2 tripwire hooks on the wall of the fortress. And immediately after the runner triggers the trap, you can literally see a fire resistance effect being applied to him in the bottom left corner. And it's pretty obvious the runner set up this tripwire to activate a commands block, to give him fire resistance while he hoped we didn't notice. So, with a fire resistance effect applied, the runner keeps killing blazes and collects 7 rods pretty quickly. And with 7 blaze rods in his inventory, a normal speedrunner would then start searching for a bastion to trade with piglins and collect ender pearls. But on his way, the runner finds, what? This might be one of the funniest looking structures I've seen in Minecraft. I don't think anyone is believing this. So, the runner enters the quote-unquote nether house and doesn't find much besides this strange-looking chest with a sign on it saying magical buttons inside. And when the runner opens the chest, he does find an unnecessary amount of buttons. But come on, there is no possible way these buttons are magical. Well, while you may be thinking that these buttons are completely useless, the runner is actually about to use them to cheat, because he gathers all the magical buttons that he can from the chest before the runner heads towards this specific wall. And after placing them in a very certain pattern, the runner starts explaining in chat that he must click every single one of them to be teleported directly into a bastion. Alright, come on, there is no way this works. Clicking these buttons will do absolutely nothing. Oh my gosh, the runner is actually teleported directly into the bastion. And if someone could possibly explain how the runner just did that, I'd love to know, because I've never been more confused. So, once in the bastion, the speedrunner actually does some fairly normal things to his credit, including crafting an iron pickaxe, mining some gold blocks, and starting to trade with a few nearby piglins. But as the runner is throwing his gold at the piglins, did you catch that? Even though the runner throws a huge amount of gold on the ground, for some reason only one piglin will pick it up and trade with him. And this is incredibly weird, considering Minecraft piglins will always pick up any gold directly in front of them. So it's incredibly odd that only one of the piglins is deciding to trade with the runner. Well, this doesn't turn out to be a huge problem for the speedrunner, because the one piglin who does want to trade starts giving the runner some incredibly good items, including 16 ender pearls and 13 pieces of obsidian. And while that's definitely suspicious, I'm still more confused about how only one piglin is trading with the runner. So, after collecting all the loot that he needs, the runner uses obsidian to easily build a nether portal. And if I have to give the runner some credit, his spawn back into the overworld actually looks fairly normal. As he spawns in with the exact same angle as he was facing in the nether, he's still in survival mode without any weird items in his inventory, and he hasn't gotten any strange potion effects in the top right corner. However, just a couple of seconds after the runner spawns in, they stumble across this strange looking book on the ground. And when the runner picks it up and opens it, all that's inside is 3 different numbers, which clearly represent the coordinates of some specific location. Well, with the runner being curious, he decides to travel towards those exact coordinates. And just a little while later, oh my gosh, this is one of the craziest looking towers I've literally ever seen. And there is 0 chance this is a real vanilla structure. Well, not only is this tower insanely scary looking, but it's actually about to help the speedrunner cheat once again. Because if you look closely, notice how the bottom of each side of the tower appear to make the shape of an arrow. And after the runner notices this too, he immediately starts digging down in the exact direction of the arrow, where he lands directly into the strongholds. I don't even know what to say anymore. So, the runner enters the strongholds, and thank gosh, because things appear to be back to normal. As the runner gets the achievement for entering into it, the 2 chests that they loot contain completely standard items, and they locate the end portal room without an ounce of suspicious activity. But that's the last real thing that occurs in the speedrun, because when the runner goes to check on the portal, you gotta be kidding me. The end portal spawns with 11 eyes already in place, which if you weren't aware, has less than a 1 in 9 billion chance of happening. I don't think anyone is believing this. So, with 11 eyes in the portal, the runner literally crafts one single Eye of Ender and quickly lights the portal. But instead of spawning on an obsidian platform like in a real speedrun, he instead spawns in the direct middle of the end, which is very strange. Well, after the runner spawns in, before he starts to break the crystals or fight the dragon, the runner strangely decides to place down a crafting table. Now, do you remember near the very start of the speedrun when the runner found this block of glowstone and this chain in the shipwreck? Well, he uses those very two items as the final items in crafting the Evoker's Wrath. And let me tell you, this is one of the scariest weapons I've ever seen in Minecraft. Because when the runner goes to attack an Enderman, he literally summons a line of stone out of the ground that goes straight towards the Enderman. So, with one of the world's most overpowered and dangerous weapons, the runner makes pretty quick work of the Ender Dragon. This next speedrun begins, and immediately, there's already something fake about it. First off, it isn't the speedrunner's spawn, as he is facing perfectly straight, and it doesn't have anything to do with this hotbar, as he is selecting the very first slot and in survival mode. But let's watch closely to what happens when the runner generates his world. I'll play the clip. If you look extremely closely, you'll actually notice the runner's mouse jumps places right after he clicks Generate World, which actually reveals the runner has made a cut in his recording and is potentially using a set seed off camera. Either way, the run starts out with the speedrunner collecting some stone, crafting himself a stone axe and stone pickaxe, before making his way towards a nearby village. And after collecting a few beds and gathering some hay, the runner goes to kill the village's iron golem. Now, I'm going to play this part of the speedrun, and I want you to tell me if you notice what's fake about it. Did you catch that? When the runner kills the iron golem and opens his inventory, he clearly only gets 2 iron ingots. However, literally 2 seconds later, when he opens up his inventory once again, he now somehow has 3 iron ingots. And I'll play the footage in super slow motion. There is not a single cut anywhere in this part of the recording. Now, it may seem pretty irrelevant that the runner only got 1 extra iron ingot. However, remember this trick that the runner somehow pulled off because he's gonna use it later. So, after somehow getting 3 ingots and collecting a bit of extra loot from the village, a normal speedrunner would then begin searching for a ruined portal. However, instead of running out of the village and beginning a search, this speedrunner oddly decides to dig down at this exact block. And somehow, after just a couple of seconds, he drops directly into a ruined portal room. But hold on a second, you probably missed it, but there's one detail which actually proves this part of the speedrun is completely fake. Because if you take a closer look into the left corner of the screen, you'll actually notice this single campfire. And while that may look irrelevant, a campfire can actually only spawn in 2 types of villages: Taiga villages and snowy villages. And because the runner is clearly in a savanna village, it's literally impossible for this campfire to spawn here naturally. So if you couldn't tell, this campfire was clearly placed by the runner off camera, and he did this to remind him a ruined portal was located under these very blocks. And to add on, the only way he would have known a ruined portal was under this village is if the runner was using a set seed, which now explains why he faked his world generation at the start of the speedrun. So, the runner digs down, enters the ruined portal room, where he goes to loot the ruined portal chest. And while all of the loot in this chest could spawn here naturally, he does get a suspicious amount of very good items, including the exact amount of obsidian he needs to complete the portal. However, it's not the items in the chest that are fake, but actually the chest itself. Because right as the runner fell down into the room, notice how the lock of the chest is facing directly towards him. However, right before the runner opens the chest, this lock is now facing to the right. So, this actually proves the runner made yet another cut in his recording, and he actually placed an entirely different chest off camera. But unfortunately, the runner placed this new chest in the wrong direction, and the lock revealed that he cheated. So, the runner grabs all of his loot from the chest, completes the nether portal, and spawns into the nether. Now, there's actually one detail which reveals his spawn is completely fake. And no, it's not his game mode, as the runner is still in survival, and it isn't the direction he's facing, as he's facing the exact same way as he did in the overworld. But let's take a very close look at the wooden axe in the runner's inventory, because before the runner spawned into the nether, we can clearly see its durability was in the green range. However, when the runner spawned into the nether, this same pickaxe is now in the red range. And this actually proves the runner cut his footage once again, and he must have been using this wooden pickaxe off camera. So, when the runner stumbles across a bastion just a couple of seconds later, it's pretty obvious he used his time off camera to build an entirely new nether portal and pretends like he spawned here all along. So, the runner enters the nearby bastion, where after collecting some gold blocks and crafting himself a few ingots, he starts searching for a group of nearby piglins to trade with. But the runner then finds, what in the Temu Minecraft piglin even is this? Did he build this himself in creative mode? Well, unfortunately for the speedrunner, there is no way he will trade. Oh my gosh, he's actually making trades. And I'm not afraid to admit it. I have zero idea how this is happening. Well, after getting some pretty overpowered loot from this wish.com looking piglin, the runner then decides to locate a real group of piglins. But watch closely, because something absolutely insane happens. Because if you're paying attention, you'll notice that these piglins are trading with the speedrunner before he's thrown a single piece of gold at them. Look, they are making trades while their hands are literally empty, and we can clearly see the runner has had 10 gold the entire time. And just to brag about the fact that these piglins are trading with literally nothing, the runner decides to craft golden armor with his ingots, knowing he doesn't need to give a single one to any of the piglins. But I'm genuinely confused on how this is even happening. So, after collecting 16 pearls and 12 pieces of obsidian for completely free, a normal speedrunner would then start searching for a nether fortress. But on his way, the runner comes across this very odd looking structure, which is apparently called the Nether Merchant House. And inside, the runner finds this very strange looking nether villager who offers the runner some of the most insane trades that I've ever seen. Why is he offering an entire stack of diamonds for a single piece of bread? Does this villager not realize he's getting scammed? Well, of course, the speedrunner can't wait to take the offer, and after handing over one piece of bread, he gets 64 diamonds straight to his inventory. Can someone confirm this isn't a real vanilla structure, right? So, with an entire stack of diamonds at his disposal, a normal speedrunner would then begin searching for a nether fortress. But this is when the speedrunner starts explaining in chat that with a quick prayer, these very diamonds can actually lead him to a fortress? And let's just hear his audio.
Diamonds, I am asking you for the honor of leading me directly to wherever a fortress may be in this nether dimension.
What in the world is this guy yapping about? Well, after apparently casting a spell on these diamonds, when the runner clicks on what? They actually start flying in the air and are leading the runner directly to the fortress. But not only that, because after he clicks the diamond, a message appears with the exact distance he is away from one. And with all this information, just a minute later, the runner finds himself directly in front of a nether fortress. Okay, genuinely, I don't think I have ever been more confused in a speedrun. So, after somehow turning the diamonds magical and summoning a fortress, the runner quickly enters inside it, where after looting a few chests, he quickly locates the blaze spawner room. And thank gosh, we can finally take a breath, because the runner gets the standard 1 rod per blaze that he kills. And the runner actually collects 7 blaze rods fairly quickly without a single bit of suspicious activity. But as the runner is leaving the fortress, let's pay close attention to what happens. I'll play the clip. Did you catch that? At this part of the footage, we can clearly see the runner has 7 blaze rods in their inventory. However, literally just a couple of frames later, when he opens up his inventory once again, he now somehow has another set of blaze rods right next to it. And just a couple of frames after that, he now has another set of blaze rods, giving the runner 21 blaze rods total. And if you remember earlier in the speedrun when the runner magically got another iron ingot, he's clearly using the same strategy here, and I have no idea how he's pulling it off. So, with 21 blaze rods and enough pearls from the piglins earlier, the runner quickly starts building his nether portal. But something very strange happens when the runner goes to light it, because instead of the portal being purple like in a real Minecraft speedrun, when the runner goes to light it, it actually turns green? Okay, that makes no sense. Well, the runner enters the green nether portal, and why didn't I think of this? He's teleported directly into the stronghold. I'm honestly about to give up. So, the runner enters the strongholds, and after looting a few of the chests inside, he starts searching for the end portal room. And I guess the runner doesn't even care about trying to hide his cheating anymore, because we can clearly see him typing in chat to change his game mode to spectator, where he flies through the stronghold straight to the end portal room. So, the runner enters the room, crafts his eyes and places them in the portal, and makes his way into the end. And to my surprise, there isn't a single weird thing about the runner's spawn into the end. As we can see, he spawned on an obsidian platform, the ender dragon still has full health, and the runner doesn't have any weird items in his inventory. But maybe I spoke too soon, because when the runner takes a closer look at the surface, you gotta be kidding me. This is one of the most overpowered looking ends that I've ever seen in Minecraft. Why is the surface made of diamond and all of the pillars are made of gold? And of course, after mining some of the blocks and crafting some pretty overpowered weapons, it's no surprise that the speedrunner easily destroys the ender dragon. This next speedrun begins, and come on dude, seriously? If you look into the bottom left corner of the screen, you can clearly see the message of the player changing his game mode to survival. And this one message actually reveals the runner cheated twice. Because first, if he changed his game mode to survival, it actually means that he was in creative mode beforehand. And secondly, because we saw the runner didn't have creative mode selected on his world generation screen, it also means his spawn is completely fake. So it is very likely that this speedrunner is using a set seed. However, giving the runner the benefit of the doubt, the rest of his spawn does look fairly normal, with the runner in survival mode, and he doesn't have any XP. And he also spawned in facing perfectly straight and parallel with the surrounding blocks. But the runner can't stop cheating when he locates a nearby village. Because let's take a look at the loot in this village chest. Now, the loot itself is actually 100% legit, as all of these items can spawn here naturally. But you can also clearly see the iron sword in this chest has already been used, and it's lost half its durability, meaning the runner clearly used this sword off camera and placed it in the chest himself. But that isn't even the most obvious cheat he's done in this village. Because look, this village house doesn't even have a door. So of course, when he goes to loot the chest in this village house, he finds a ton of obsidian, a block that can only spawn naturally in a blacksmith, which is clearly not the village house he's in. And I don't want to be mean, but this might be one of the worst cheaters I've ever seen. Well, with enough obsidian from the chests, you're probably expecting the runner to simply build a nether portal and spawn into the nether. But for some reason, this speedrunner decides to start looking for a ruined portal. Does this guy not understand he already has all the obsidian that he needs? Well, this speedrunner might be smarter than I thought, because he immediately starts typing in chat /fly. Okay, no way that works. Oh my gosh, the runner starts flying in vanilla Minecraft, and with flight enabled, he's able to fly extremely quickly straight to a ruined portal, and this allows him to save all of his obsidian for later in the speedrun. But genuinely, how did the runner just fly in survival Minecraft? So, the runner locates the ruined portal, where he first decides to loot the ruined portal chest. But come on, he's gotta be more careful than that. Because if you look a little closer at this ruined portal chest, you can see a very visible red outline around the lock, which if you weren't aware, actually means this chest is a trap chest, not a real chest. And trap chests clearly don't spawn naturally here, meaning the runner simply placed this chest himself off camera. So I don't think anybody's surprised when the runner finds a bunch of overpowered items in this ruined portal chest. So the runner grabs all the loot from the ruined portal chest, where he quickly finishes building the portal and spawns into the nether. But the runner then does something incredibly strange, because instead of starting to search for a fortress or a bastion in the nether, the runner instead decides to head back to his portal and spawn in the overworld. Very weird. Well, once in the overworld, the runner quite literally moves a couple of blocks to the right before he builds a brand new nether portal. Why is he doing this? Well, after lighting the brand new nether portal and spawning into the nether this time... Wait, what? He spawns in directly next to a fortress. But hold on a second. This is literally impossible, because in Minecraft, 1 block in the nether represents 8 blocks in the overworld. And because we saw the runner build his new portal only 4 blocks to the right, this means the runner's new spawn should only be half a block away from his old spawn. But as we clearly saw, these 2 portals are in 2 completely different locations. So the only explanation is that the speedrunner made a cut in his recording and built a different portal off camera to make it look like he spawned in front of a fortress. So the runner enters the nether fortress, and everything actually does look pretty normal at a first glance, as the runner loots a few of the fortress chests and makes his way to the blaze spawner room. But wait a second, since when did the runner get a potion of fire resistance? Because literally less than 1 minute ago, it was very obvious he didn't have a single one anywhere in his inventory. Well, the speedrunner has actually made a cut in his recording that was done so well, the only way to notice it is if you take a listen into his audio. I'll play the clip.
This is the scariest thing. This is 100% real.
Did you catch that? Well, if you listen closely, you can actually hear the audio of the video the runner is watching completely jump places.
This is the scariest thing. This is 100% real.
And just to confirm there was a cut even further, if you put this speedrunner's audio into an editing software, you can clearly see an unnatural change at the exact point where the runner cut his footage. So it's more than obvious that for the runner to get this potion of fire resistance, the runner made a very sneaky cut in his recording where he went in creative mode and got it off camera. So with a fire resistance effect applied, it's pretty easy for the runner to fight blazes without taking any damage. And for the first time in the entire speedrun, things are actually normal, with the runner collecting 7 blaze rods without any suspicious activity. But instead of leaving the fortress after collecting these rods, the runner instead decides to continue to fight the blazes. And this is incredibly suspicious, as any normal speedrunner would immediately stop fighting blazes after getting 7 blaze rods. But this runner continues to fight them until he has 10 rods, and remember this for later. So after collecting more blaze rods than necessary, the runner finally leaves the fortress and starts searching for a nearby bastion. And at a first glance, it may look like the runner simply gets incredibly lucky, finding a bastion almost immediately. However, if you take a closer look at this part of the speedrun, you'll actually realize he's cheated once again. Because if you pause the footage at this very frame, take a close look at this item. This is a crimson fungus, an item that does spawn naturally in the nether. But the crimson fungus only spawns in one specific biome, which is actually the crimson forest biome. But as you can clearly see, the runner is in a nether wastes biome, not a crimson forest, which means it's literally impossible for crimson fungus to spawn here naturally. And if you play the footage, you'll notice the runner followed these crimson fungus all the way to the bastion. And because crimson fungus can't spawn in this biome naturally, I think it's obvious the runner placed them himself off camera to remind him the exact path to follow to locate the bastion. So the runner enters the bastion, but But the cheating doesn't stop there, because I want you to watch this clip and tell me what's fake about it. Did you catch that? You can clearly see that the speedrunner is mining this gold block with a stone pickaxe. But in Minecraft, the only way to collect a gold block is use an iron pickaxe or better. So can someone please explain how the runner just collected this block with a stone pickaxe? Well, after somehow collecting these blocks, the runner crafts some gold ingots and starts to search for some piglins to trade with. But instead of finding a group of piglins like a real speedrunner would, this runner instead finds zombified pigmins? And while they are incredibly similar, everybody knows that you can't make any trades with these mobs. Well, this speedrunner must not know that, because he actually decides to start throwing gold at the group. Is this guy serious? Oh my gosh! The zombified pigmins actually pick up the gold and start trading with the speedrunner. And honestly, how is this happening? Well, not only is the runner somehow trading with zombified pigmins, but they actually give the runners some impossibly good trades, including 16 ender pearls and 16 blocks of obsidian from 45 gold ingots, which, after some extremely complicated calculations made by ChatGPT, has less than a 0.0000000000322% chance of happening, which makes this random speedrunner literally more lucky than Dream. So, after not only getting impossible trades but getting them from zombified pigmins, the runner quickly builds his nether portal and heads back towards the overworld, where he quickly crafts his eyes of ender, and using the process of triangulation, starts searching for the position of the strongholds. But on his way, the runner finds this extremely strange looking structure, which looks to be some sort of strange portal that has an item frame on every single block. Well, do you remember earlier in the speedrun when the runner purposely collected extra blaze rods? Well, this means that the speedrunner has a bunch of extra eyes of ender in his inventory, and the runner starts placing his spare eyes of ender in each of the item frames. And when the runner goes to place his final eye, oh my gosh, this strange looking portal actually manages to light. And not only that, but why does the portal look green? This is actually insane. Well, of course, the runner gets curious and decides to enter this strange looking portal, where he ends up spawning directly into the strongholds. You gotta be kidding me. So, the runner spawns into the strongholds, and after looting a few chests, he makes his way to the end portal room. And if you thought this speedrunner wasn't already lucky enough, he ends up with the exact amount of eyes he needs to complete the end portal. Seriously? So, the runner jumps in the portal, spawns into the end, and let's check and see if anything is fake. Dragon at full health seems to be good. The runner is still in survival mode, also a check. The end not being completely built out of TNT. Uh-oh, this might be one of the most dangerous end dimensions that I've literally ever seen. And on top of that, this speedrunner might be one of the dumbest players I've ever seen. Because in a dimension with TNT literally everywhere, the speedrunner has the bright idea of fighting the ender dragon with flint and steel. Is this guy like actually serious? And of course, while trying to kill the ender dragon, the runner actually lights off a piece of TNT. Yeah, I think his game might have froze. I don't think he's beating this speedrun. This next speedrun begins, and right off the bat, there's already something completely fake about it. And no, it actually doesn't have anything to do with the runner's loading screen, as we can clearly see he has it set to survival mode. And it isn't even the direction he's facing either, as the runner is perfectly straight and parallel with the surrounding blocks. But hold on a second, we missed something huge, because I'm going to play this clip of his world generation, and I want you to figure out what's fake about it. Did you catch that? Well, to help you out, I'm gonna slow down the footage and see if you can spot it this time. Well, as you can clearly see, the runner initially spawns in wearing a skin that is green, but literally just one frame later, his skin magically changes to orange. And this actually confirms that the speedrunner has made a cut in his recording, which is incredibly suspicious, and remember it for later. So, the speedrun begins, and everything seems pretty ordinary, as the runner collects some wood and crafts some tools, all the normal stuff. But let's see what happens when the runner locates a nearby village. What? Wait, okay, hold on a second. Why in the world is there a giant Mario statue in the middle of this village? Please don't tell me that's the reason why he cut his footage in the beginning of the run. Now, while this is definitely random and extremely hilarious, it's actually a huge distraction for the speedrunner to cheat. Because while it appears as though the runner is simply moving towards the structure to see inside it, take a very close look at this block, where you can actually see a grass pressure plate hidden in the floor. And first off, a grass pressure plate isn't even a real type of pressure plate, so I have no idea how the runner managed to find one. But secondly, as soon as the runner steps over this pressure plate, you can see a command in the chat which gives the runner a bunch of iron and a flint and steel, both crucial items for entering the nether. So I think it's pretty obvious this giant Mario statue was actually one big distraction for the runner to step over this pressure plate and get extra items. But what's even funnier is that when the runner notices these items in his inventory, he makes up one of the world's dumbest excuses.
By the way guys, if you see some extra items in my inventory, my game's just really laggy, so it gives me random items sometimes.
This guy isn't fooling anyone. So, after getting a bunch of extra iron and a flint and steel, the runner collects some beds, gathers some hay, and starts searching for a ruined portal. And to the runner's credit, it appears as though the ruined portal he finds is actually completely normal. But wait a second, because this speedrunner has cheated once again. Because I'm gonna replay this part of the footage, and you tell me what's fake about it. That's right, this speedrunner's skin has once again completely changed, meaning he made another cut in his recording. And I think it's pretty obvious that while the runner was off camera, he simply used a /locate command to find this ruined portal, meaning this part of the footage is completely fake. But my question is, why does this guy have so many different skins? So, the runner locates the ruined portal, where he starts off by going to loot the ruined portal chest. And I know you're expecting the loot in this chest to be completely fake, but that actually isn't the case, as all of the items he finds are actually completely normal. What the heck? The runner finds a jack-o'-lantern catapult? Okay, this isn't a real Minecraft item, is it? Well, of course, the runner wants to test out this item, and oh my gosh, this weapon is absolutely insane. Anyway, after messing around with this crazy weapon, the runner decides to focus by completing the nether portal and making his way into the nether. Now, a normal speedrunner would then make the choice of looking for a fortress or even looking for a bastion, both structures that are crucial in continuing the speedrun. But this guy doesn't even have to decide on which one he goes to first, because he literally finds a bastion that spawns inside the middle of a fortress. What? Now, it is technically possible for a bastion and fortress to spawn close to each other if they generate close to the separation border. But a bastion literally being inside a fortress is something that I think is simply impossible. And how the runner managed to pull this off, I unfortunately have zero idea. Well, the runner makes his way towards this insane generation, where he decides he first wants to enter the bastion. But right away, this speedrunner is up to some very suspicious activity. Because after he throws only 4 single pieces of gold, he somehow collects 16 ender pearls. Now, I guess you could argue this is possible, as each gold ingot you throw has the potential to collect 4 pearls, and because the runner threw 4 pieces of gold, it is possible to collect 16 of them. But the odds of this happening are so incredibly low that after I asked ChatGPT, has less than a 0.0000006% chance of happening. Now, I was about to let this slide and just assume this runner was the luckiest man in our galaxy until just a couple of seconds later, where he actually reveals the way that he cheated. Because if you look into the top left corner of the screen at this very frame, you can see that the runner is playing Minecraft with Forge installed, which, if you weren't already aware, is a very popular mod loader for Minecraft. So it's very likely that the reason the runner was able to get incredibly lucky trades from these piglins is because he's actually using a Minecraft mod which changes their drop rates. And because playing with mods that alter the game are clearly banned, this part of the speedrun is incredibly fake. Well, after collecting 16 pearls, a normal runner would then start searching for a fortress. But if you already forgot, this speedrunner found a world where the fortress is literally inside the bastion, so he doesn't have to waste any time searching for one and is already in the fortress. But as soon as the runner starts running around it, there's already something incredibly suspicious. Because I want you to take a closer look at the loot in this fortress chest. Now, all of the items in this chest may look fairly normal at a first glance, but take a closer look at this redstone torch. And while it may seem very unimportant, it's actually impossible for this to spawn naturally in a fortress chest. So while this isn't necessarily suspicious now, remember this very redstone torch for later in the run. Well, after the runner loots one more chest and quickly drinks a potion of fire resistance, he starts his search for a blaze spawner room. But that's until... what? The runner finds 5 blaze spawners literally lined up in a row. And while there is technically no limit to the amount of spawners that can generate in a fortress, there is absolutely no way that 5 blaze spawners spawns perfectly in a straight line. So the only explanation is that the runner built this himself off camera. Well, with 5 different blaze spawners, there is a ton of blazes that the speedrunner is ready to kill. And in only about 45 seconds, he's actually able to collect 7 rods, the exact amount a runner would need to continue the speedrun. But here's the problem. When the runner opens his inventory, he realizes that he forgot to collect obsidian in the bastion, meaning he now has no way to travel back to the overworld and continue with the speedrun. Well, this speedrunner doesn't seem to be too worried about it, because as he is casually running throughout the nether, he finds a very strange sign on the wall, which literally only has one single word: magma. Well, I'm not entirely sure what that means, but the runner seems to know what it is and starts running in a very specific direction until they come across this very specific wall, which by the looks of it has a magma block that is very out of place. Now, while this block is very suspicious, how could it possibly help with the speedrun? Well, do you remember back earlier in the run when the speedrunner found a redstone torch in the fortress chest? Well, the runner grabs the torch, and when he goes to place it on this magma block, oh my gosh, a secret door opens up, which reveals a room with a fully built nether portal. And while this is very obviously fake, credit to the runner for however they pulled this off. So, the runner lights the secret room ruins portal, where he finally spawns back into the overworld, where he quickly crafts Eyes of Ender, and you're probably expecting him to use triangulation to locate the strongholds. But instead of throwing his Eyes of Ender right away, he instead decides to place down a crafting table, where he inserts an Eye of Ender and an Ender Pearl into the table, which creates the Stronghold Eye? Was this a part of the new update? Well, after somehow crafting this crazy looking Eye of Ender, when the runner decides to throw it, oh my gosh, he is teleported directly into the strongholds. And while I don't know if this Stronghold Eye is a real item, it's for sure insanely overpowered. Well, after somehow teleporting into the strongholds, the speedrunner wastes no time searching for the end portal room. But somehow, this stronghold doesn't have 1, not 2, but 3 end portal rooms rooms. Is that even possible? The max amount of end portal rooms that could spawn in a stronghold is only 1. I'm so confused. Well, the runner decides to use the end portal with the most eyes already in place, which of course means he now has the perfect amount he needs to light the portal, where he places his eyes, lights it, and finally jumps into the end, where to my surprise, I guess things seem fairly standard, with the runner still being in survival mode, and he spawns in without any crazy items in his inventory. But unfortunately, those two things are the last normal parts of the speedrun, because he starts explaining in chat that he has somehow acquired god strength, and that killing the ender dragon will be super easy. What god strength is this guy yapping about? Well, I guess the runner wants to show off this strength, so he pulls out his fist and makes his way towards the dragon. Alright, this fist is going to do no damage. What? This speedrunner just took half of the dragon's health with one single swing. And just one punch later, the runner actually manages to kill the ender dragon. And honestly, this speedrunner must actually have god strength, because I have no idea how he just pulled that off. This next speedrun begins, and right off the bat, there is already something fake about it. But it isn't something incredibly obvious, as everything looks fairly normal on the surface, as we can clearly see the runner spawned in facing straight, and he's also in survival mode. But let's actually go back to before the runner generated his world, and when he was adjusting his brightness. Because while the runner is adjusting this setting, take a very close look at his GUI scale, which is a number that determines how big or small your hotbar appears. And as we can clearly see, he has it set to 5. However, when the runner spawns into the game, we can clearly see his GUI is much smaller than level 5 and is likely at level 3. And this actually means that the footage of him loading into the world and the footage of him spawning in are actually two completely different pieces of footage. And the runner has actually edited his world generation, making it very likely that he's using a set C. Either way, ignoring the incredibly suspicious spawn, the speedrun begins with the runner mining some wood, crafting a couple of tools, and making his way to a nearby shipwreck. And while this shipwreck may look completely normal to the average Minecraft player, there is one thing about this shipwreck itself that is incredibly odd. Because in Minecraft, a shipwreck will always spawn with only 2 different types of wood. However, when it comes to this shipwreck, we can actually clearly see there are 3 different types of wood, which actually leads me to believe that this shipwreck didn't generate naturally, but was instead built by the runner off camera. And this is further proven when the runner finds 4 chests inside the shipwreck, when the maximum amount of chests that can spawn naturally is only 3. Now, these 2 details essentially prove that this shipwreck is completely fake and was custom built by the speedrunner himself. But if you were still not sure about it, there is one more extremely hidden detail which guarantees this isn't real. Because if you replay the footage of the runner locating this structure, notice how he followed these dirt blocks all the way to the shipwreck. Clearly a sign that the runner placed them himself off camera, reminding him the exact direction the shipwreck was located. And the cherry on top is when the runner finally goes to loot his very first shipwreck chest, he finds an insane amount of obsidian, an item that can't even spawn naturally in this location. And I think it's pretty obvious that the reason the runner edited his world generation was so he could build this shipwreck for himself off camera. Well, after looting the rest of this entirely fake Minecraft shipwreck, you'd probably expect the runner to use his obsidian to quickly build a nether portal. But when the speedrunner opens his inventory, notice how he doesn't have a single flint and steel or fire charge. Meaning even if he did build the portal, he would have no way to light it and can't enter the nether. But despite this, the runner insists on building his nether portal. But when he goes to place the final block, what? This portal somehow lights on its very own after being completed. And because the runner didn't use flint and steel, didn't use a fire charge, and didn't even use a method involving lighting wood on on fire? I have absolutely no idea how he pulled this off. So, the runner enters the self-lighting nether portal and quickly spawns into the nether. And with this spawn being completely legit, the runner starts his search for a bastion. But after nearly 7 minutes of searching, the runner simply can't seem to find a bastion anywhere in the nether. And this is incredibly unlucky, as bastions spawn every 200 to 400 blocks, meaning the runner should have found one by now. Well, the runner starts typing in chat, explaining that he wants to try out a new hack that he found on TikTok, where the runner types in the sentence, "Roses are red, violets are blue, bastion please spawn, and love you I do." Okay, I can guarantee this poem will do absolutely nothing. What? A bastion literally spawns out of thin air. And I'll replay this clip. There is very clearly not a single cut anywhere, and this poem has indeed just magically spawned in a bastion. I need a link to whatever TikTok explained this Minecraft hack. So, the runner somehow summons a bastion, where he begins to do the usual. Mine gold blocks, turn them into ingots, and search for some piglins to trade with. But unfortunately, the runner actually can't seem to find a single piglin anywhere in the bastion. And this is quite literally impossible, as piglins will always spawn in a bastion no matter the circumstance. Well, after just a bit more searching, we come across a possible explanation for the lack of piglins. Because the runner finds a button on the wall called the piglin button? Alright, I don't even have to explain why this is fake, right? Well, I think it's pretty obvious that this button only serves one purpose, and that is to spawn in a piglin every single time the button is pressed. Okay, this feature is absolutely insane. So, after spamming the button for 30 seconds straight, the runner has an army of piglins ready to trade with. And while he does get lucky with some pretty good trades, including 12 ender pearls and 10 pieces of obsidian, that isn't actually what's fake about this part of the run. Because if you look closely, you'll actually notice that the runner has obtained 10 emeralds in his inventory, which is an item that is actually impossible to receive from piglin trades. So, while these emeralds may seem both useless and unimportant now, remember them because they will be extremely important later in the run. So, the runner somehow collects emeralds, and along with ender pearls and obsidian, he makes his way out of the bastion. But as he is breaking out, oh my gosh, what type of cursed looking portal even is this? I'm almost positive this wasn't a part of the new Minecraft update. Well, the runner makes his way towards this insane looking portal, where he of course sees a sign right next to it, which claims that this portal is actually called the fortress portal. Well, being curious, I think it's obvious the runner wants to enter this strange looking portal. And when he finally spawns in, you gotta be kidding me, he somehow spawns directly into a fortress. And while I'm nearly positive this quote-unquote fortress portal is simply some sort of Minecraft mod, I gotta give the runner credit because it was pretty cool. So, the runner enters the fortress, where after collecting loot from this chest, the runner starts looking for a blaze spawner room. But you gotta be kidding me. Instead of finding a real monster spawner like in a normal Minecraft speedrun, this guy literally finds another player who is wearing a spawner's skin. And you can literally see him pull out a blaze spawner egg, pretending like he's an actual spawner. And I'm sorry, I know this part of the run is incredibly fake, but it's so hilarious that I think we just have to let it slide. So, after locating a quote-unquote blaze spawner, the runner splashes on some fire resistance when blazes start to spawn. And the runner actually gets some pretty decent luck, collecting 7 blaze rods pretty quickly. And after collecting these rods, the most obvious next step would be to build another portal and head back towards the overworld. But I think it's pretty clear that this guy has a slightly different plan, because he starts running in a very specific direction until he comes across a roller coaster? Alright, you gotta be kidding me. Well, the runner locates a roller coaster, and it's pretty obvious he can't resist taking a ride on it. And while this does look like a lot of fun, this speedrunner is wasting a ton of valuable time. Well, that's until, at this part of the roller coaster, what? The runner literally falls between dimensions and drops straight into the overworld. I have 0 words. So, the runner somehow makes his way into the overworld, but he makes a huge mistake. because even though he locates the exact position of the stronghold without any suspicious activity, let's take a closer look at his inventory, where you can clearly see the runner only has 8 Eyes of Ender after wasting most of them to locate the position of the strongholds. And because the end portal requires 12 eyes to be completed, how in the world is the runner supposed to continue with the speedrun? Well, the runner digs down and enters the strongholds, where he seems to be going in a very specific path. And that's when he finds a vending machine? Okay, was a vending machine an item in the new Minecraft update? Well, the runner makes his way towards the vending machine, but hold on a second. Do you remember earlier in the run when the runners somehow collected emeralds from these piglins? Well, of course, when the runner opens the vending machine, take a look at the currency he needs to purchase items. And on top of that, one of the items in the vending machine is of course an Eye of Ender, the exact item the runner needs to continue with the speedrun. And I'm not gonna lie, there is no way a vending machine is a real Minecraft item. So, the runner uses the emeralds he somehow got from the piglins to purchase the extra Eyes of Ender that he needs, where he makes his way to the end portal room and easily completes it. And despite finding a vending machine just a couple of seconds ago, his spawn into the end doesn't feature any strange activity, with the runner still being in survival mode and the dragon still being alive with a full bar of health. But as soon as the runner makes his way to the surface, what? A second Ender Dragon health bar suddenly appears at the top of the screen, and he literally finds 2 different Ender Dragons in the end. Is that even something that's possible in vanilla Minecraft? Well, I think this dimension, quite literally having 2 dragons, might simply be too much pressure for the runner, because while he is trying to kill one of them, he gets absolutely destroyed, and the speedrun just cuts off there. This next speedrun begins, and this runner has already cheated in a hilarious way. And don't worry, it actually has nothing to do with how the speedrun began, as the runner was simply collecting wood and crafting some tools. And it also doesn't have anything to do with this spawn location, as we saw he was facing perfectly straight. But let's take a much closer look at the runner's generation screen. If you've been paying attention, you may have noticed the language is slightly weird. Instead of single player, it says Lonely Voyage, and instead of create new world, it says shape a new sea. Well, if you weren't aware, this speedrunner actually has his game set to pirate language, which in itself is not fake at all and actually pretty funny. However, when the runner spawns in and looks at the name of this item, it's clearly in English, because in pirate language, this very same wooden pickaxe is instead called Pickaxe O Timber. So, because his generation screen and his gameplay are using 2 completely different languages, it actually confirms that this speedrunner made a cut when generating his world. And it's likely that he is in fact using a set seed and remember it for later. So, after the runner gathers the materials to craft a few tools, he begins searching for a village. But let's see what happens when the runner heads inside this specific village house, which is a cartographer house. So, the runner enters the house, where he doesn't seem to locate a chest until... What? The runner does somehow manage to open a chest. But wait a second, are my eyes playing tricks on me? There's quite literally not a single chest anywhere in this house. Is this possible? Well, the runner somehow opens an invisible chest, where he finds mostly normal items, including iron ingots and apples. But the runner also finds this strange looking clock. And while it's possible this is simply a standard clock and the runner is using a texture pack, remember this item for later in the run. So, the runner finishes looting the invisible chest, where he turns his focus towards the village's iron golem. And don't worry, everything about this golem itself is actually completely normal. And to take it one step further, after the runner kills the golem, it also drops completely normal loot. But notice how the runner uses this very loot to craft iron tools, instead of saving it for a different item. Remember this for later. So, the runner grabs the loot from the iron golem, where he collects some hay, and starts searching for a ruined portal. And surprisingly, he locates a very standard looking ruined portal, which also does not contain a single fake item in the chest, where he quickly finishes creating the shape of the portal. However, do you remember how I mentioned the runner using his iron to craft iron tools? Well, when he checked his inventory, he realizes he doesn't have a flint and steel, and because he just wasted those iron ingots, he's not able to craft one either. Well, this is when the runner types in chat that he has a genius idea and will be back, where we see that he quickly quits his game. And 45 seconds later, are you kidding me? The speedrunner loads back in and is now wearing a skin that's literally flint and steel, where he starts yapping in the chat, explaining he now has the actual powers of this item. What does that even mean? Well, wearing this very specific skin, the runner quickly walks to the center of the portal, and just a couple of seconds later, the portal lights on its own? No, that's impossible. Did this skin actually manage to just light the portal? Look, all we played in slow motion. There were no cuts, no editing. This flint and steel on the runner's skin actually just allowed the runner to light the portal. How is that possible? So, after somehow lighting the portal, the runner enters it and quickly makes his way into the nether, where a normal speedrunner would start searching for either a fortress or a bastion. But this guy instead finds... Wait, is that the house from SpongeBob? I didn't know SpongeBob was added into Minecraft. Unfortunately, the runner isn't able to meet SpongeBob himself when entering the building, but instead, he manages to find a sponge portal? Hold on a second. Let me try to build this portal myself. There's no way this is a real portal, right? Well, the runner of course wants to head directly into this portal, where he is teleported straight into a bastion. And what is the logic behind a sponge portal from SpongeBob teleporting a player into a nether structure? I'm so confused. So, the runner enters the bastion, and like many speedruns we've seen before, he collects some gold blocks, crafts some ingots, and begins to trade with a group of nearby piglins. But as the runner is trading, oh no! The runner literally starts falling and heading straight towards lava. Now pause. I know you're probably expecting this speedrunner to die, especially considering he doesn't have any fire resistance and he's heading straight towards lava. However, do you remember towards the beginning of the speedrun, when the runner found this strange looking clock in the village chest? Well, right before the runner is about to make contact with the lava, he clicks this very item, which reverses time and brings him all the way back up to the bastion. And if you pause the footage at this frame, you can literally see that this item is called Time Machine. And I'll replay that one more time, because not only was that extremely clutch, but I'm almost positive there is no Minecraft item that allows you to reverse time. So, after narrowly avoiding death, the runner continues to trade with piglins, this time being careful to stay away from the edge. And for the first time all speedrun, I can confidently say things are normal, as the runner collects 12 ender pearls, which is lucky but not impossible, and also 10 blocks of obsidian. Also pretty good, but nothing out of the ordinary. Unfortunately, things only get worse when the runner starts searching for a fortress, because on his way... What? Wait, is that Steve from the Minecraft movie? No way he was added to real Minecraft. Now, I know you're expecting Steve to give the runner some sort of overpowered item, but instead, he gives the runner a single piece of bread. You know what? Respect to Steve for not helping this speedrunner cheat. So, with an extra piece of bread, the runner continues to search for a fortress, where he eventually does manage to find one. But unfortunately, he has one problem, because when he checks his inventory, he quickly realizes he is very short on blocks. And because this fortress is extremely high in the air, how is the runner supposed to enter it and continue with the speedrun? Well, the runner starts explaining in chat that he found a glitch on TikTok that might help him out, where he starts building a 3x3 platform out of hay bales. Alright, the TikTok this guy saw must have been trolling him. Well, the runner finishes building his platform, where apparently the final step is placing a singular lever on this very block. But prepare yourself, because when the runner flips the lever, oh my gosh, the hay platform literally starts floating in the air and brings the runner directly to the top of the fortress. And it's obvious that this footage hasn't been edited or altered, and this platform is actually floating in mid-air, bringing the runner straight to the fortress. I need a link to whatever TikTok the runner saw which explained how to do that. And to confirm I wasn't going crazy, I built this exact same structure in my own Minecraft world, and it's obvious it does not work. So how in the world did the runner just pull that off? So, the runner makes his way to the top of the fortress, where he does actually get the achievement for entering inside it. But let's take a very close look at the loot the runner finds in this fortress chest. Because the runner finds gold, diamonds, a TNT sword. Wait, what? Last time I checked, there is no way to craft a TNT sword in Minecraft. Well, the runner grabs the item, where he quickly makes his way towards a blaze spawner room. And being that this is literally called a TNT sword, the runner can summon an explosion at a moment's notice, which destroys multiple blazes at once. Alright, I think this weapon might be too overpowered. So, after destroying an entire family of blazes with this incredibly overpowered weapon, it's no surprise that the runner quickly collects 7 blaze rods, where he then builds another portal and makes his way back towards the overworld. But unlike other speedrunners we've seen, this guy doesn't craft a single Eye of Ender and explains he can actually locate the stronghold simply by feeling it. Okay, whatever that means, I'll be impressed if this guy can pull it off. Well, he starts to run and appears to be going in a very strange direction, constantly switching the way he's facing and where he's running towards. But I guess this guy must have the quote-unquote feeling he described just a few seconds ago, because he starts digging down at this very block. Okay, there is no way this is possible. This is wasting a ton of valuable time. Oh gosh, the runner falls directly into the stronghold. But pause. I wish I could sit here and say this guy is some sort of genius and actually had the ability to feel the location of the stronghold. But let's rewind the footage and see what actually happened. Because if you look into the left corner of the screen at this frame, are you serious? You can literally see another player who is wearing an overworld skin. Wait, don't tell me he actually thought this skin would blend him in with the surroundings. And if you play the footage, it's very obvious the runner has been following this player all the way to the stronghold location. So not only does this mean the runner claiming to feel the location was completely fake, but it's actually hilarious they thought this skin would help them get away with it. So the runner digs down and enters the stronghold, where I guess I can give him a few points for actually getting the achievement. And after looting a stronghold chest, the runner makes his way to the end portal room. But what in the world? The runner literally finds 3 end portals, all extremely tiny and all with a different color. Wait, is it even possible to light a portal that small? Let alone for it to be any color besides the standard? Well, I wish the runner told us why, but I guess he's feeling the purple end portal. And while I'm shocked that this somehow worked, I'm surprised that the end looks 100% standard, as he spawns on an obsidian platform like any ordinary speedrun, and he also didn't gain any magic powers or items in his inventory. But yeah, I spoke too soon, because when the runner goes to the surface, no way. The dimension looks absolutely beautiful. This is one of the craziest looking ends that I've ever seen in Minecraft. Why does it literally look magical? Well, the speedrunner is clearly blown away by this incredible looking end that I think he forgot the Ender Dragon is still Minecraft's most dangerous mob. Because while the runner is enjoying the view, the dragon perches, launches the runner all the way into the air, and he gets absolutely destroyed. That was insane. This next speedrun begins, and there's already a very small detail which reveals his spawn is fake. And no, it didn't have anything to do with this world generation, as that actually looked completely normal. And it's not his generation menu either, as he had his game mode set to survival and without a bonus chest. But when the runner spawns in and opens his F3 menu, do you notice that? No, it's not the direction the runner is facing, as he's facing south like any normal speedrun. And it's clearly not his biome either, as he is in fact in a plains biome. But let's take a look at this line, where if you look closely, you can actually see the runner is on day 1. The problem is, you always spawn into Minecraft starting on day 0. So, this small detail actually proves that his spawn is completely fake, and the runner has already been on the world before recording. Remember this for later. So, the speedrun begins and things are honestly pretty normal, with the runner heading towards a tree to gather wood, crafting a few tools, and making his way into a nearby village. But there's something incredibly weird about this village, and do you notice it? That's right, there doesn't seem to be a single villager anywhere in this village, which is something that's only possible in an abandoned village, which is clearly not the type of village this runner is in. Well, when the speedrunner opens his inventory, notice this incredibly strange golden axe in the top right corner. And first off, it's obvious the runner didn't craft this on camera, as we haven't seen him collect a single piece of gold. But secondly, when the runner hovers over it, what? This golden axe is called the Villager Vanisher? Which not only means the reason this village has no villagers is because of this runner's crazy item, but that is likely what the runner was doing off camera before he started recording, which explains the fake world generation. But I'm still confused on how in the world the runner even crafted this item. There's no way it's real. So, after accidentally exposing his custom secret weapon, the speedrun continues with the runner collecting some beds, gathering some hay, and going to loot this village chest. But hold on, rewind that footage. Did this guy literally just pass an entire diamond village house? Okay, first off, I think it's more than obvious a diamond house doesn't spawn naturally in any type of village. But secondly, why did this guy casually walk past it like it's something he sees every day? Well, maybe that's because the chest in this village house is even more overpowered. Because along with apples and bread, both standard items, the runner also finds... Huh? A chest? Inside of a chest? Okay, while it's more than obvious this isn't possible in vanilla Minecraft, how in the world could it even help the speedrunner? Well, the runner grabs the chest from the chest, where he decides to place it down. But when he opens this one, what? The runner finds another chest. Okay, this is hilarious. Well, after finding his third chest, when the runner places this one down and opens it, oh my gosh. The runner finds obsidian, fire resistance, flint and steel, literally every single item you need to enter the nether. And while it's incredibly obvious this is fake, how is it possible? Because in Minecraft, there is no way to place a chest that already has items inside of it. I am so confused. So, after gathering all the items he could ever need for the nether, from a chest he found in a chest in a chest, the runner's next order of business is fighting this village's iron golem. But when the runner goes to locate it, what? This iron golem has somehow flipped upside down. Wait a second. When the runner first entered the village, this iron golem was completely normal. So how did it randomly flip? Well, I know what you're probably thinking. This iron golem has to be named Dinnerbone, which is a very famous Minecraft Easter egg, which turns any mob with this name tag upside down. But somehow, when the runner makes his way towards the golem, you can clearly see it doesn't have a single name tag, which means this iron golem has somehow flipped by itself. What in the world is messed up with this world's game files? Now, while this golem is definitely hilarious, I do have to give the runner some credit because the items it drops are actually completely normal, as the runner gets ingots and poppies, both the two standard items you get from iron golems. But things aren't as normal as the runner starts searching for a ruins portal, because what? As the runner is clearly running in an empty plains biome, a ruined portal suddenly just spawns out of nowhere. Alright, first off, I think it's obvious there is no Minecraft feature that randomly makes structures appear. But secondly, I also don't see a single cut in the recording. So the only explanation is that it did somehow happen in game. Okay, was this a part of the new Minecraft update? Well, the runner heads towards this magical ruins portal, but the crazy craziness doesn't end there, because instead of finding your average ruined portal chest, the runner finds a red chest. And not only is the outside of this chest red, but when the runner opens it, literally every single item inside is also red. Redstone, bricks, mushroom blocks. How in the world did this chest spawn here naturally? Now, while this chest may seem very innocent and just a way to make us laugh, notice how the runner only grabs one single item from it, which is this redstone torch. And that is incredibly suspicious, so remember this item for later in the speedrun. So, with only red items in this chest, the runner pulls out the loot he got from the other chest, and quickly finishes building the ruined portal. And while his spawn into the nether actually appears to be pretty normal, as the runner spawns in facing the exact same direction he was in the overworld. But what the runner does next is not normal in the slightest, because he starts typing in chat /duplicate. Alright, hold on. What in the world could the runner be trying to duplicate? He doesn't have any overpowered items. But secondly, I think it's obvious this is not a real Minecraft command. So why is the runner even trying to type it? Well, the runner must be convinced this command is real, because when he finishes typing it and presses enter, oh my gosh, another player suddenly appears on the screen, and he's wearing the exact same skin as the speedrunner. Okay, first off, there was clearly an error message in the chat, so how did the command actually work? But secondly, does that mean that this player has duplicated himself? I mean, they're literally wearing the exact same skin. There is no way this is possible. Well, after somehow creating a literal clone into Minecraft, the runner of course wants to put it to use. So he starts typing in chat, asking his clone to locate a fortress, where his clone immediately starts flying in the air and is clearly traveling in a very specific direction. Well, not only does his clone apparently come equipped with creative mode, but he also starts typing in chat, giving the runner the exact coordinates a fortress is located. You know what? I gotta give credit to the clone. At least he actually located a fortress. Well, even though the runner has literally been given the exact coordinates to a nether fortress, he's apparently too lazy to search for it himself. So do you remember how just a few moments ago, I pointed out how the runner only collected a redstone torch from the red chest? Well, the runner quickly pulls it out and makes his way to this suspicious block of soul sand. And when he places it, a trapdoor suddenly opens up, revealing a pressure plate. And when the runner jumps on the pressure plate, they're teleported directly into the fortress, which is of course located at the exact coordinates given by the clone. What in the world is going on? So, after somehow teleporting directly into a fortress, I can give the runner a bit of credit for getting the achievement. But the runner does seem to be having a bit of trouble in his search for a blaze spawner room. And this is a big problem, considering that's the only way to collect blaze rods, a very crucial item in Minecraft speedrunning. Well, this is when the runner's clone suddenly appears back on screen. And out of nowhere, he literally morphs into a blaze right in front of the speedrunner. Okay, let's replay that. How did his clone get the ability to transform into a blaze? Well, being that there is a blaze right in front of him, I guess the runner doesn't need to look for a blaze spawner, and instead pulls out his axe and literally starts attacking his clone. And just a few seconds later, when he kills it, oh my gosh, the runner's clone literally drops an insane amount of blaze rods, 4 stacks to be precise. Which means despite the runner not finding a single blaze spawner, he now has more than enough to continue with the speedrun. But I'm still curious about how in the world his clone just transformed into a blaze. So, with more blaze rods than any player would ever need, a normal speedrunner would then begin searching for a bastion. But I think this speedrunner has a slightly different idea. Because what? His friend suddenly appears out of the ground. Alright, hold on. I'm pretty sure the runner literally killed his clone while he was ablaze. How in the world is he already back from the dead? Well, I guess the clone has somehow been reincarnated, and the runner slowly makes his way towards it. And then suddenly, what? The runner somehow stacks on top of his clone. Okay, hold on a second. Since when was there a stacking mechanic in Minecraft? But that's not all, because the runner's clone starts to move in a very specific direction, eventually leading the runner directly to a bastion. And I'm sorry, I wish I could explain how in the world the runner just did that. So, after the runner's clone leads him directly to a bastion, the runner has one massive problem. This bastion is clearly on the complete opposite side of a giant lava pool. And without any ender pearls and hardly any blocks, how is the runner supposed to get there? Well, the runner suddenly decides to whip out an anvil. Hold on a second, since when did he have an anvil? And immediately places a pair of leather boots inside. Alright, what could this guy possibly be doing? Well, the runner places the leather boots in the anvil, where he decides to rename them lava boots. Okay, don't tell me this guy thinks these boots will allow him to walk on lava. Well, the runner does in fact create the boots, puts them on, and literally starts walking directly on lava. And not only that, but he doesn't take a single lick of fire damage, allowing him to make his way directly into the bastion. Okay, let me replay that. You can clearly see the runner is actually walking on this lava. How in the world is this even possible? And just to confirm I wasn't going crazy, I made my very own lava boots in my own Minecraft world, and I can confirm they do absolutely nothing to protect you from lava. So how in the world the runner managed to pull this off, I have absolutely no idea. So, the runner literally walks on lava and finally makes his way into the bastion, where things unfortunately don't get any better. Because while crafting an iron pickaxe, mining gold blocks, and creating ingots are all completely legit, these piglins are an entirely different story. Because while the runner is casually trading with them, take a good look into the top right corner of the screen, where you can actually see a piglin spawn egg floating in mid-air. And do you remember how the runner has had a clone to help him throughout the speedrun? I think it's obvious he's the one holding the spawn egg, while using a potion of invisibility to conceal his identity. Now, even though manually spawning in piglins is clearly not allowed in a speedrun, that's not the worst part. Because instead of this spawn egg spawning in normal piglins, it instead spawns in emerald piglins? Alright, hold on a second. Was this part of an update that I missed? Well, not only are these piglins clearly not like the rest, but when the runner tries to throw gold at them, they don't even accept it, which I guess makes sense, considering they are emerald piglins. Well, this is when the runner opens his chat and starts typing in a command to give him a full stack of emeralds. And when he throws this item at the piglins, that is when they actually start to trade with him. I'm so confused that I don't even know what to say. Well, after throwing emeralds at emerald piglins, the runner starts to get some pretty decent traits, including fire resistance, ender pearls, and even enough obsidian to build a nether portal. But while the runner is doing this and preparing to leave the nether, let's take a look into the right corner of the bastion, where you can clearly see the runner's clone holding a golden hoe. Remember this for later. So, the runner finally spawns back into the overworld, where his first order of business is crafting some eyes of ender. And it looks like the runner is actually using the process of triangulation to locate the position of the strongholds. But after only throwing one eye of ender, the runner seems to believe a stronghold is located under this very block. Come on, that's impossible. Triangulation requires 2 eyes of ender to work, and the runner has clearly only thrown one. Well, the runner insists on digging down at this exact spot. Alright, there's no way he finds it. Oh my gosh, the runner falls directly into the strongholds. Okay, how in the world is that possible? Now, I know you're probably shocked and think this speedrunner is some sort of genius, but there's one crucial detail which reveals it's all fake. Because let's rewind the footage and take a closer look at the area where the runner dug down. Because if you take a close look into the corner of the screen, notice how this piece of dirt has actually been tilted. And do you remember how just a few moments ago, I pointed out the runner's clone holding a golden hoe? I think it's obvious the runner's clone used that very item to till this piece of grass. And he did that to remind the speedrunner a stronghold was located under this area of blocks. So no, he didn't actually locate the stronghold himself, but instead, his clone pointed it out for him. This cheating is terrible. So, the runner makes his way into the strongholds, and while I can give him credit for finding a completely normal stronghold chest, the end portal room is a completely different story. Because, why is the room made out of diamonds? Was there a new diamond end portal room that was added in the new update? And, not only is the room built out of diamonds, but when the runner goes to light the portal, oh my gosh, the portal turns into diamond as well. Was this also added in the new update? Well, the runner jumps in the diamond end portal, and I guess things may seem standard at a first glance, as the ender dragon clearly has full health, and the runner hasn't gained any strange items in his inventory. But when the runner breaks out, oh my gosh, the end has also turned into diamond. Now, after seeing the end portal room, the portal itself, and the end all being made out of complete diamonds, I think you can guess what the dragon is made out of. What? Instead of diamond, the ender dragon is instead made out of sand. Okay, the dragon must have been the only thing to miss the new update. Well, with a dragon that is quite literally built out of sand, it's not a surprise that the runner pulls out his fist and manages to one-shot it. That was hilarious. This next speedrun begins with the runner spawning directly next to a ruined portal. And right away, there's something incredibly fake about the runner's spawn. Because if you take a good look at the runner's inventory, you can clearly see that he's selecting the last slot. When in a real Minecraft speedrun, you always spawn in selecting the first slot. And this actually means the runner has been on the world before he started recording, which will make a lot of sense very soon. So, the speedrun begins with the runner collecting some wood, crafting some tools, and heading towards the ruins portal. But hold on a second, did you catch that? While the runner is casually looting the ruins portal chests, you can actually see the message that somebody else has joined the world. And not only is having multiple players clearly banned from a solo speedrun, but you're going to become incredibly familiar with this new player very soon. Well, the runner finishes looting the ruins portal chests, and without enough items to enter the nether, he quickly makes his way towards a nearby village. And while the village itself is actually completely normal, the speedrunner has just cheated. Because let's rewind the footage to before the runner started searching for the village. If you look closely, you'll actually notice that the bottom of this tree has a single block of brown terracotta. And if we play the footage, notice how the runner has been following trees with this block all the way to the village. It's pretty obvious the runner marked out these trees to remind him which direction the village was located, hoping we wouldn't notice and thought the trees were completely normal. So, the runner enters the village, and thankfully, things appear to be completely normal, as the runner starts off by collecting a handful of beds, and when killing the iron golem, he gets a normal amount of ingots. But things start to get suspicious when the runner enters this village house. Because while the loot in this chest is completely normal, the chest itself is completely fake. Because let's rewind the footage and take a very close look at the specific village house he's in. This is a toolsmith house. The problem is, chests only spawn in this type of village house in a desert or taiga biome, which the runner clearly is not in. So how in the world did this chest get here? Well, if we rewind the footage to this moment in the speedrun, speedrun, you can quite clearly see another player placing this chest through a window, which is clearly the same player who we saw join the world earlier. And he likely did this to help the runner get extra iron so he could craft flint and steel. So the runner finishes gathering his loot, where he then makes his way back towards the ruined portal. But as the runner is completing the portal, he accidentally misplaces his last piece of obsidian. And without any more in his inventory, how in the world is the runner supposed to enter the nether? Well, the runner decides to pull out his iron pickaxe, where he literally starts digging straight down. And just a few seconds later, what? He digs all the way into the nether, even though we clearly never saw him light a ruins portal, and his flint and steel hasn't even been touched. So while it's pretty obvious this is fake, I have no idea how that just happened. So, the runner drops down into the nether, where I guess I can give him credit as his spawn does appear normal, and the runner begins to search for a nether fortress. And the speedrunner quickly locates one, but there's just one slight issue. This fortress is clearly located way above the speedrunner's head, and without enough blocks in his inventory, it's pretty much impossible for the runner to get there. Well, the runner places down a crafting table and crafts a grappling hook, which he grabs, shoots it at the wall of the fortress, and gets launched to the very top of it instantly. Wait a second, was this a new item added in the new Minecraft update? That was absolutely insane. So, the runner enters the fortress, and like any normal speedrunner would, begins to search for a blaze spawner. But even though there is clearly no blaze spawner at the end of this pathway, the runner insists on running towards it, which is extremely weird, as this is wasting incredibly valuable time in the speedrun. Well, the runner keeps running on this pathway until, what? A blaze spawner quite literally appears out of thin air. Wait a second. Is that even possible? Well, if you rewind the footage and pause it at this frame, we're given a very big hint as to how in the world this could have happened. Because we actually see this same player we saw earlier in the run holding a very weird type of axe. And if you replay the moment when this blaze spawner appeared out of nowhere, you can see this exact same axe directly next to it. So this is what happened. The speedrunner's friend, who has clearly been helping him cheat, drank a potion of invisibility to hide his identity. And this strange Minecraft axe somehow has the power to spawn in a blaze spawner, which is why we saw it appear at the exact same moment that the blaze spawner did. This speedrun is insane. So, after literally seeing a blaze spawner appear out of thin air, the runner immediately begins to fight some of the blazes. And after about a minute, the runner collects 7 blaze rods, the standard amount a speedrunner needs to continue the run. But let's run the footage and take a closer look, because the speedrunner actually just cheated. Because while the runner is casually fighting blazes, it appears as though he accidentally mines this block. And somehow, when the runner breaks the block, it actually drops a blaze rod? And I'll replay the footage. There are no cuts, no editing. This blaze rod quite literally just came from a block of nether brick. So it's pretty obvious the runner messed with the game files and hoped we wouldn't notice him get a blaze rod from a literal block. So, after collecting all the rods that he needs, a normal speedrunner would then begin to search for a bastion. But this speedrunner seems to have a slightly different plan, because for some reason, he seems to believe a bastion is located under this lava pool. Okay, is this guy serious? Why would a random bastion be hiding under lava? Oh my god. The runner drops down and finds himself directly into a bastion. And the only possible explanation is that the runner's friend must have told him there was a bastion here. So, the runner enters the bastion, but he doesn't collect any gold blocks like you might expect, because he starts explaining in chat that he is the piglin whisperer, and that he can literally make the piglins trade with him without a single piece of gold. And that's when he starts saying this.
Dear piglin gods, I don't have gold, but I hope my aura will be enough for you to trade with me.
Did this guy just claim his aura will cause the piglins to trade with him? Okay, he has to be joking. No way that prayer actually worked. Oh my gosh. The piglins actually start trading, and you can see they are literally trading with nothing. Look, the runner hasn't collected a single piece of gold, and the piglins' hands are literally empty. Yet they start to give the runner a bunch of overpowered items. Okay, does this speedrunner actually have some magical aura? So, after a few more trades with the piglins, the runner collects his ender pearls and needs to head back towards the overworld. The only problem is, the runner only has 8 blocks of obsidian, which would make him just 2 blocks short of completing the portal. But the runner still insists on building the portal. Okay, you gotta be kidding me. The runner makes the world's goofiest looking portal that is literally impossible to light as it's way too small. Okay, this guy has to be pranking us. This clearly isn't going to work. Oh my gosh, it actually worked. And I'm gonna be honest, I have zero idea how the runner just pulled that off. So, after somehow lighting a portal that is literally too small, the runner spawns back into the overworld. And right off the bat, the speedrunner cheats yet again, as we can clearly see the command of a player giving himself water breathing that he accidentally forgot to cut out. But why in the world would the runner need a water breathing potion? Well, the runner starts throwing his Eyes of Ender, where it may look like he's trying the popular technique known as triangulation. But if you're actually paying attention, it's pretty obvious he isn't actually following any of the Eyes of Ender that he throws, and instead makes his way towards this random ocean. And do you remember how the runner accidentally revealed he had water breathing just a few seconds ago? Well, the runner jumps into the ocean, where he finds a secret underwater tunnel heading straight towards the stronghold. But that isn't even the worst part, because as the runner is swimming in this tunnel, something incredibly suspicious happens, because there's a clear cut in the recording at this part of the footage as the Eyes of Ender in his inventory jump from 7 to 9. And when the runner finally enters the stronghold and locates the end portal room, 9 Eyes of Ender is of course the exact amount he needs to complete the portal. It's pretty obvious the runner cut the video, went off camera to see how many pearls he would need for the portal, and pretend that nothing happened. But I'm still shocked at this underwater tunnel that the speedrunner found, which must have been built by his friend sometime off camera. So, the runner completes the portal, jumps in, and enters into the end, where thankfully, things appear pretty normal at first, with the runner getting the achievement for entering the end. And to add on, the Ender Dragon also still has full health. But as the runner is casually breaking one of the end crystals, oh my gosh. He literally finds a hole in the pillar, which actually reveals a secret ladder, which of course leads the runner to one of the most overpowered loot rooms I've ever seen in Minecraft. Because when the runner goes to check out what's in this chest, he finds some of the most overpowered items in Minecraft history, including a netherite sword that literally has strength 255. So, when the dragon perches and the runner pulls out this weapon, it's pretty obvious he destroys it. This next speedrun begins, and there's already something fake about it. Because if you look into the bottom left corner of the screen, you can clearly see that the runner has been messing around with his game mode. And because changing your game mode requires cheats to be enabled in the world generation screen, it already proves that this speedrun is fake. But giving him the benefit of the doubt, the speedrun begins with the runner collecting some wood, crafting a few tools, and heading towards a nearby village. But pause the footage here, because there's already something incredibly suspicious about the village. Because if you look into the left corner of the screen, you can literally spot a single lever on the ground. And first off, it's more than obvious this lever is fake, as levers obviously don't spawn naturally in a Minecraft village. But secondly, when the runner goes up to this lever and flicks it, oh my gosh. he has managed to open up a door to a secret Minecraft loot room that not only has some incredibly overpowered items, like multiple ender chests full of loot and a full set of gold armor, but also has a sign on the wall claiming this is Jeff's secret loot bunker. Now, not only are the items in this secret bunker insanely important, as gold armor will protect the runner in the bastion, and the obsidian will help the runner finish a ruins portal, but you're probably wondering who Jeff is, the quote-unquote owner of this secret bunker. Well, when the speedrunner turns around, oh my gosh, the runner finds himself face to face with a frog named Jeff. And I don't even want to know how a literal frog managed to build an entire secret bunker. So, the runner quickly builds out of the bunker, where he then makes his way towards the village's iron golem. But what's very strange about this iron golem is you can clearly see it's already been damaged, which is very odd, as this is the first time the runner has seen the golem all speedrun, meaning it's impossible he's the one who did damage to it. Well, after the runner finishes killing the golem and collects all of its ingots, pause the footage, because in the left corner of the screen, you can spot Jeff the Frog once again, which leads me to believe he is the one who damaged this iron golem to help the runner kill it easier and gain an advantage. Jeff is helping this runner cheat way too much. So, after collecting his loot from the golem and gathering a few extra items from the village, the runner quickly locates a ruined portal, where using the obsidian he got from the secret bunker, he easily completes the portal and lights it. And when the runner spawns into the nether, I can give him credit for getting the achievement, and he starts to search for a fortress like any normal speedrunner. But on his way, what? The runner comes face to face with one of the craziest looking portals I've ever seen. And not only does the portal itself literally change colors, but is this even a real type of portal in Minecraft? I mean, look, in my own test world, I couldn't even get it to light. Well, of course, the runner is intrigued by this crazy looking portal, so he quickly jumps in. And when he spawns back, oh my gosh, the runner is teleported to some sort of giant Minecraft cloud, where he sees a bunch of portals all around him. And upon closer inspection, the runner realizes every single portal on this giant cloud has a sign next to it with a specific Minecraft structure. So of course, the runner looks for the portal that's titled Fortress, and when he enters this specific portal, oh my gosh, the runner is indeed teleported directly into a fortress. Okay, there is absolutely no way this giant portal cloud is a real Minecraft feature. Well, the runner quickly enters the fortress, where I can give him credit for getting the achievement, and he also locates the blaze spawner pretty quickly without any suspicious activity. But what happens next is insane. What? Instead of finding blazes, the runner finds blaze chickens. Okay, what in the world? This is actually hilarious. And not only are these blaze chickens insanely funny, but when the runner kills one, oh my gosh, each blaze chicken drops 2 blaze rods, which is literally double the amount a real Minecraft blaze would drop. And I'm 99.9% sure the blaze chicken didn't win the latest mob vote. So, after only killing a few blaze chickens, the runner finds himself with 8 blaze rods, where he immediately leaves the fortress and begins to search for a bastion. And less than 30 seconds later, the speedrunner actually manages to locate one, which is very suspicious, as the runner did not use a single speedrun technique to locate the bastion. Well, let's run the footage to before the runner started his search and see what really happened. Because if you zoom in to the top right portion of the screen, you can quite literally see floating lava. Look, this lava isn't coming from anywhere. And if you play the footage, you can clearly see the runner has been following floating lava all the way to the bastion. And it's not only insanely obvious the runner placed this lava himself to direct him to the bastion, but I have absolutely no idea how he managed to make it float. strongholds. So, after defying Minecraft physics with insane floating lava, the runner finally enters the bastion. And after collecting gold and turning it into ingots like any normal speedrunner, the runner quickly locates a group of nearby piglins. But this is where things get crazy, because instead of immediately throwing his gold at the piglins like a real speedrunner would, this player instead decides to type in the command /trade. And first off, is /trade even a real Minecraft command? I've never heard of it. But secondly, what does this command even do? Oh my gosh. Immediately after the command was entered, these piglins start to make trades. And you can clearly see this command has actually worked, because these piglins don't have a single piece of gold in their hands, meaning the /trade command has actually managed to make the piglins trade without gold. This is insane. Well, after collecting a ton of loot from the piglins while keeping every piece of gold, the runner quickly built another portal and heads into the overworld, where he spawns in and is face to face with Jeff the Frog, who immediately starts to run in what appears to be a very specific direction. And of course, the runner follows Jeff the Frog, assuming he's leading him straight to a stronghold. However, when Jeff the Frog stops at this specific block, implying that a stronghold is right underneath it, the runner starts to dig down at this exact place. Oh my gosh! The runner actually falls straight into lava, and while the runner is lucky to have fire resistance, meaning he's not going to die, Jeff the Frog just absolutely trolled him. Now, you may be thinking that the runner has just made a giant mistake, and Jeff the Frog has indeed turned on him. However, that couldn't be further from the truth, because all of a sudden, wait, what? The speedrunner somehow falls directly into a stronghold. And when the runner looks up, he reveals there was a secret exit out of this lava pool. And if you rewind the footage to before the runner dug down, you can actually see that Jeff the Frog specifically told the runner to drink fire resistance, clearly revealing he knew the runner would be falling into lava. Meaning this entire part of the speedrun is not only fake, but was planned and rehearsed by Jeff the Frog as a way to help the speedrunner enter the strongholds. Jeff has to stop helping him cheat. Well, the runner finds himself directly in the strongholds, where he quickly locates the end portal room. However, despite the runner having the exact amount of pearls he needs to light the portal, he actually makes a giant mistake, because the speedrunner accidentally misclicks and throws his eye in the air instead of placing it in the frame, meaning he is now one eye short of completing the portal. So how in the world is the runner supposed to enter the end? Well, that's when this happens. Jeff the Frog suddenly appears out of nowhere, where he throws a single Eye of Ender on the final end portal frame. And despite the eye clearly not being inside the frame, all of a sudden, the portal actually lights. And how in the world is this possible? Because after I tested this out in my own Minecraft worlds, I can confirm having an eye on top of a frame does not light it. So I have zero clue how this floating Eye of Ender actually managed to light the portal. So, the runner quickly jumps into the end portal and finds himself in the end. And at a first glance, things seem legit. Survival mode, check. Dragon at full health, check. No strange items in their inventory, also a check. However, when the speedrunner goes to the surface, things get absolutely insane. Because of course, the runner turns around and finds his good friend Jeff the Frog in the end. However, how is this tiny little frog going to provide any help against the giant dragon? Well, the runner turns around to check something in his inventory, but when he turns back, oh my gosh, Jeff the Frog has magically summoned a giant enchanted sword. And this thing is literally bigger than the speedrunner himself. And despite every single end crystal still being intact, the runner uses this giant sword to one-shot the ender dragon. That was insane. Click a video on screen now to watch even funnier fake Minecraft speedruns.